The member for Bonner.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Education,
New England.
Employment and Workplace Relations and Social Inclusion. Will the Deputy Mr Speaker, will the Deputy Prime Minister update the House on the needs for civics education and the challenges for our education system in assisting Australians to understand federal politics?
The Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for her question. And of course I think we'd all agree it's very important that Australians are inspired to understand their democracy, inspired by the prospect of serving in public life, whether that be as a member of parliament or whether that be in one of our great public service agencies, whether that be my department, whether it be the Prime Minister's department, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or perhaps even the Electoral Commission. And I think we would recognise that there was a sigh of relief from the Electoral Commission after certain events yesterday, because how much public education would it have taken for the 2010 election to be between Kevin and Julia and Kevin and Julie? It would have been a close election, Mr Speaker, a close election so close there'd only have been a letter in it, a letter difference. And, Mr Speaker, one does wonder whether we would have ended up being a nation internationally ridiculed as people from around the world concluded that every Australian man must be a serious church-going type called Kevin and every Australian woman was a former lawyer called Julie or Julia. The nation has certainly dodged a bullet as a result of yesterday's events. I do note that we should be praising the member for Wentworth for introducing the name Malcolm into the election to stop this confusion. I do also note, though, from a Mr Gretsch email, not everybody is a fan of the current leadership team. Mr Gretsch did say, agree that MT is doing a good job, but he needs to deal with the JB issue. It seems to me grossly unfair, Mr Speaker. I won't stand for it. I think the team of Malcolm and Julie are doing very well indeed. But that doesn't mean that we're holding anything against the member for Menzies, and I've actually bought him a small Christmas present as a token. I know that he's probably feeling a little bit poorly today, so something to remind him from those good old days in the past.
The Prime Minister's made her point.
And
the Deputy Prime Minister's made her point. Order. The member for McCullough on a point of order.
Mr Speaker, yesterday there was a usage of a prop by the Leader of the National Party which you ruled out of order and had to be done away with. It was then used by Mr Hockey. It was then used by the member for North Sydney. He was told to take his fingers off it. What is the difference when this prop is introduced? Is there one rule for each side?
Order. The member for Forrest. Starting from the final point first, I endeavour to make sure that there's one rule for all, and I think that on props, I'm on safe ground that there has been one rule for all. Because, first of all, the Leader of the National Party was given reasonable opportunity to use his prop. Well, I'm sorry, I can't grade the use of props. The Deputy Leader of the Opposition, I did remind that she shouldn't display it too much, and she was good enough to listen. No, the prop. I think that I'll just rule against the member for McCullough's point of order and get myself out of the second hole I've dug today. And just remind the House that whilst the member for McCullough was on her feet, I was reminding the Deputy Prime Minister that she'd used her props long enough, and that's enough. And I'll try to be silent for the rest of question time. The Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I'll move right on before we start debating censorship laws, which was where that was all going next as far as I could tell. But the reason we're also very fond of the member for Menzies is he is, of course, a former race caller. And I think one of the things that he could do next year, now he won't have the burden of leadership on his shoulders, is he could call the 2010 election for us. And I've actually got what I think could be his starting call for him. Of course, they're often racing, and Kevin's on a horse called the Future of Programmatic Specificity, a well-known horse in Rudd Labor politics. Programmatic specificity, it's trying hard. And there, of course, is Malcolm Turnbull on a horse, the future of global conspiracies. But Malcolm's struggling. Malcolm's struggling because the back half of the horse appears to be trying to go into a different direction, and he's actually trying to chuck a bit of weight off. There's a few fake emails, there's Gretsch to get rid of, and of course there's those
Deputy
climate
Prime
change
Minister
deniers.
will resume her seat. Member for Mackellar on a point of order.
Mr Speaker,
Order.
I think I preferred the
Order.
props. Could we return?
Order. Can I simply share with the House and with the member for Mackellar that I've already given an award. I'm not sure what the award was, and I was surprised that it was on the last day, but that deserves an award even though it might not have been a point of order. The Deputy Prime Minister will relate her material in some manner to the question and try to get to the final straight of her answer.
I'm on my way to the final straight, Mr Speaker. Thank you very much. On the question of civics education, and I'd say to the member for Mackellar, in this horse race, the old horse ain't what she used to be. But moving right on. Mr Speaker, of course, the member for Warringah is there on a horse called Battle Limes, but it does seem to be stalking the member for Wentworth, but it just won't pass. That might cause a steward's inquiry at some point of this horse race. The member for North Sydney's riding a clever race, but his horse is looking quite tired by now.
The Deputy Prime Minister will resume his seat. The member for Mackellar on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I think the Minister wins by a nose.
The member for New England might have rated that right. I cannot believe that the member for Mackellar could get 2 awards, but the Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. It's true to say I've got a genetic advantage. I'm prepared to pay that, absolutely. And of course, the member for Mackellar, apart from making an appearance as a war horse, I think she could make an appearance on a horse called Infrastructure. She's already got the high visibility clothing, not wearing it today, but she would always fit in well on a building site, always fit in well there. The member for Wide Bay, I think, could be there. He's still flogging a dead horse called the National Party. We would be able to see him in the race. And of course, the member for Sturt would be there. He'd be there in the grandstand, and what he would be doing is squealing to the Leader of the Opposition, "Don't frighten the horses." That's exactly what would be happening. But, Mr Speaker, can I say, in the spirit of the season, that I wish all opposition members well, and I'd like to conclude by saying to my old friend, the member for O'Connor, I actually don't have a mad uncle in my family, so he's always welcome round at the Gillard family for Christmas. And if he wants to bring his 34 mad mates with him, he's very welcome as well.
The member for Menzies.
Mr Speaker, on indulgence and in the spirit of the Minister's remarks, and as a former race caller, can I suggest she sticks to a day job?